This week's scenario sees our second set of players advancing to the second scenario, Rising Tensions. This scenario continues with the Moonless Light special rule that all LOS is reduced to 12 inches from the first scenario. However, it has a sneak pass rule that allows the defending player, which would be the Trollbloods, to be able to move models off of the table edge in order to achieve a scenario victory. Also affecting the defensive player is the surprise attack rule, which causes the loss of advanced deployment and ambush. Win conditions consist of the defending player having 3 of its models removed from the opponent's table edge, or having the only models left on the table.
Hello, this is Iron Lich W, and this week for my 25-point campaign list, I decided to bring a full unit of Satyxis Blood Witches, 2 Machine Wraiths, and a Warwitch Siren. The assumption that I was going on when I made the list was that I would lose game 1, so I emphasized speed in order to get to my opponent's table and get off the board.
So as we step into Prologue 2, I have my 2 lists. I have the Champions list from prior, and then I have this list, which is basically going to consist of a unit of Raiders, a unit of Pyg Lookouts, a Fellcaller, and a Shaman. This is one I chose because it gives me more multiple units to potentially spread across the table, so that at least one side of my table can break through and force my opponent, who has a max unit, to choose which side he's going to defend on.
So, Cryx turn 1, as I see my opponent split his army across both ends of the board, I immediately grow concerned because I see his strategy and I realize that I am going to have trouble defending it. So I do the most logical thing I can think of, which is to send my Satyxis Blood Witches after his Northkin Raiders. And I try to keep the near side of the board, which is my left flank, put models over there to try and somehow deal with the 5 models he's got over there. So he's got a clear 5-2 advantage.
So as I mentioned in my deployment, the scenario that I'm looking at is my opponent has a max unit of Satyxis Raiders, so I force his decision, if you will, by deploying my Raiders on one side and my Pyg Lookouts on the other. Any of these has more than 3 models in it to try and get off the table. Obviously the top one has more, but I see it more of a scenario of I don't need to get 3 on one side, I just need to get 3. And if that's the Shaman and a Pyg Lookout and the Fellcaller, then so be it. So my Raiders at the top are actually just going to be there for screen and jam and everything like that, and then my Fellcaller is just continually going to keep running in order to get off the table and be one of those 3, which means my bottom portion just needs to have 2 models to go through, be that 2 Pyg Lookouts, a Lookout, and a Shaman, or whatever the case might be. And for the most part, they're just running forward. I just need to get across the table.
Cryx turn 2. Trying to worry about what's going on the left flank. I am not sure what I'm going to do, but I know as I'm going to looking at the right flank, which is the easiest for me to deal with at the moment, I go ahead and decide to throw one of my Blood Witches up there just to see what happens. I'm going to throw one up there just to mess with kind of his deployment, so he has to be weary of free strikes, as well as he's got to deal with that one model and do something with it for just a turn. So it's going to impact at least the activations of 2 models, I'm hoping. And then, as I am deploying my Blood Witches, I am thinking to myself, don't clump up, because I don't want his AoEs to start wreaking havoc. And so once I'm done with the Blood Witches and the Machine Wraith on the right flank, I feel that I'm content to let my opponent come to me instead of going all the way up to him. Because I know he's got a Shaman over there who's got magic attacks, so I just set the Machine Wraith and Siren and wait for him to come to me.
So this is the part where the lines are going to get engaged. Again, my tactic going into this round's not changed any. My Raiders are going to go up and they're going to jam, maybe get some bombs off. He's, toss some out. Maybe I can kill a couple of them. But at the top, my only concern is just keeping the Fellcaller unengaged and just having him run. Every turn he's just going to run. He's not fast, but because he's a solo and he's not bound by any sort of unit coherency, he doesn't have to worry about staying engaged. The problem with the Raider unit is the second one of them gets engaged, the others in the unit are immediately kind of left out of a way of just running max. Down at the bottom, I advance the Pyg Lookouts forward, so I throw one into the witch because if I can lock her up, she's going to Shadowbind one of them, fine, whatever. The others can go down towards the Machine Wraith, and that kind of forces a scenario where the Machine Wraith has to decide, is he going to swing and become corporeal again, in which case I can deal with him without having to have magic. If he doesn't, then I can run through him and he's not going to be able to free strike, and then I still have the magic of the Shaman to spray. So this Shaman's kind of positioned himself so where he can either spray the Machine Wraith or he can spray the Witch. But I want to force a decision on my opponent to have to make that decision. My positioning on my lookouts is off, and that will be addressed later. I'm not going to spoil what happens, but there's an issue right there with the lookouts. And then at the top, I'm kind of stuck in a bit because I'm trying to figure out what's the best approach to maximize my damage output while still making sure that I engage or get engaged these Satyxis. They're not high enough mat that they're actually potentially going to do anything, but then if he tries to leave, free strikes increases my ability to take them out, if you will. I could theoretically use the mat buff off of the Fell Caller, but then it runs into a scenario of the Fell Caller is not running at full speed if he's doing abilities or getting engaged or going into spray or anything like that. I just want him running every turn. And then so you'll see that I'm moving up some of the ones to engage up the top. They're also there because the Fell Caller can then just run past them as they're duking it out. They can kind of focus as a screen for him. And then by engaging into the range of that building, that rubble, the Fell Caller doesn't have to worry about path or anything like that. He can just run behind.
So my opponent has done what feels to be like a pretty aggressive move, and he's got all his pigs up there. He's got his Shaman a little bit back in anticipation of what I'm going to do. And first thing I notice is if I position my Siren right, she's got a spray that can hit at least 3 of the pigs. Attacked my opponent, he admitted that he forgot about the Venom of the Siren. So I feel that gave me a pretty good opening to try and deal with his high numbers on that left flank. And even though I only killed one model, I feel what made that particular kill effective is that it killed one model that was near the Machine Wraith. Normally Machine Wraiths, you want to keep them incorporeal, that way they can run through anything and do whatever they want. But given how the new rules for incorporeal work, a model cannot make free strikes if it's incorporeal, so that I definitely want to be making attacks with Machine Wraith all over the place. That way he can make free strikes during my opponent's turns. Because my opponent killed one model near a Machine Wraith, if the Machine Wraith attacks and fails the kill, he's still engaging 2 models. So my opponent either has to kill him in order to get his models freed up, sacrificing activation, and giving me more time to get something from the right flank over to the left flank to defend myself. It forces him into a tough decision. So luckily for me, the Machine Wraith manages to kill one of the pigs. So my opponent went from a 5-2 advantage down to a 3-2. And it's a little more manageable, because with each model I kill from the left flank, that means he's got to get one model on the right flank to the board edge. His goal is to try and get the 3 models to my board edge and off the table. That way he automatically wins the game. And I'm trying not to panic and deal with the situation that's on the left flank, because I feel that flank make or breaks the game. Because if he's going to get models off the table, it's going to be from that side. While we are down to the left flank, looking at the right flank, my opponent did move most of his models up to within charge range of the Blood Witches. Or at least charge range of a Blood Witch, and then me, if I can't get a second charge off, I'm going to run a second Blood Witch to engage. That way, someone is getting the gang bonus. And I have to get as many of his models as possible this turn, because if I do not, then I'm going to be nice and clumped up for his little AoE bombs to start killing things left and right. So what's going to make the Blood Witches particularly effective against trolls is one of the abilities they have is Grievous Wounds. So I can negate his tough. And because I have gang, I have a high mat, so I'll be able to hit him reliably. So that ends up being what occurs, is I do get rid of most of the Northkin Raiders on the one turn that the Blood Witches managed to get the charge off. He also has a Fell Collar that's kind of just off screen. And I still have another Machine Wraith on that side. Originally I was going to run that Machine Wraith over to the left flank to try and help provide some kind of cover there. But the way he was moving his Fell Collar on the right flank, I decided to kind of keep him over there and just kind of cross my fingers and hope and pray that my opponent would not be able to kill any of the models on my left flank, which is probably not the greatest prayer to be doing. The only saving grace I have is that the Siren and the Machine Wraith that was holding my left flank is defense 14, and I think my opponent was mat 5 or 6. And looking at War Room, mat 4. So my opponent had to overcome some low mat in order to successfully hit the 2 solos I had on that side. But I didn't want to, jinx myself and make it easy for him, so I tried to gum up his lines as best I could. Then at the end of the activation of the Blood Witches, most of the Northkin Raiders were gone. I think I got rid of all but 1 or 2 of them. So at this point, that right flank is not looking well for my opponent, but I still need to seal it so that he can't get any models across. And then I have to figure out what I'm going to do with that left flank of mine.
So, going into my turn 3, I took a pretty savage beating at the top. My Fell Collar's at 1 hit point, and I have 1 Raider left to me. So things are looking ugly at the top of the screen. Looking at the bottom of the screen, though, the Machine Wraith has opened itself up, so I can basically advance up and do a spray. So my thought is, advance up, do a spray, kill the Machine Wraith, and then have that Pyg Lookout that's at the very bottom of the screen just bolt all the way to the end of the thing. And then if my other Pyg at the top can somehow survive or live long enough that the Shaman can be a second person, then I just need the Fell Collar at the top, or the other Raider at the top. Since witches are not exactly known for their melee, it's possible. However, when the Shaman advanced, he did not hit on the spray, missed. And then the Pyg Lookout, who's still engaged, rotates over. He tries a melee swing, nothing. The other Pyg Lookout swings on the witch, nothing. So yeah, that's a no bueno down at the bottom. Nothing's happening at the bottom at all, and I've got only the 2 activations at the top. So I've got the Fell Collar, who's currently engaged just slightly off the screen. I mean, he's literally hugging the edge of the table with a Machine Wraith. With only 1 hit point. So my thought was, well, if he had more than 1 hit point, I'd just run and take a free strike and try and survive the free strike. But with 1 hit point, that's not that good. So I go for an attempt of 2 swings. Unfortunately, both of the swings miss. So there's the first one, the second one, both miss. So not only is the Fell Collar still there, but the Machine Wraith holding him down is also there as well, keeping him locked in. So then I activate this solo Raider. Because the Satyxis Blood Witch only has a half-inch melee, that means that I can just kind of swivel around her, get out of her melee range, and it takes about 4 inches of my run, and then just run the rest of it to try and get off the table. Again, if I get 1 off the table, 2 at the bottom, I get my 3, and that's a win.
overall, my opponent, he tried to kill some stuff on my left flank, which was the weaker of my two flanks, and the dice did not fall his way, which left me the opening to try and knock out more stuff, because I need to use the 2 models I have on that side while I can. So, I mean, first thing I'm going to do is maneuver my Siren around, get a spray that gets multiple models. She's able to get a Pig Burrower as well as the Shaman, and she hits. She hits both of them, but she does not kill. But just as important is Corrosion, which deals 1 point of damage instead of requiring a damage roll. So that's something that did work in my favor, as there's likely something is taking damage next turn. If he passes his tough check, he's going to have a model on the ground instead of advancing. So that really does provide me some room to breathe. And then once again, gotta make my attacks with the Machine Wraith. I gotta make his presence known, and I need him to not be incorporeal. And so I'll make my opponent quickly resolve a timing issue of when he gets and loses incorporeal based on his attacks. And no, it says he gets it as soon as at the beginning of his turn. Can't remember if it's activation or turn, but he gets it, but he's not going to take a free strike because of when he gets it. So he's going to swing around behind the pig, attack the pig from behind, and he's going to force a tough check, which my opponent does not pass. And what is significant is because I managed to kill a third model on that side, that means one of the models on my right flank, near the top of the screen, has to get by, and that really puts pressure on him to try and get something out of that, the far side of the board, the top of the screen. Up there he's got a couple models left alive, including a Fell Caller, to which I go after them pretty viciously. I'll say both Machine Wraiths are really putting in work doing attacks this turn. And then I got to position the Bloodwitches such that if my opponent does get something through the the far side, that I'll at least be able to run around Bloodwitches and encircle the model. If all else fails, run the Bloodwitches, circle a model that can't kill everything, and make him have to spin his activation killing stuff instead of advancing. The Bloodwitches are fast enough to do it, so I need to just make sure that I don't misposition and make another silly mistake, such as I did when I chose this list.
So the Fell Caller's gone, which means that the only way to win is for all three models that I have on the table to make it off the table. Pretty much the writing's on the wall on this one. I roll for the Corrosion. The pig survives the Corrosion. Kind of wished he didn't, but he did. Actually, I need all three. I needed all of them to survive. Unfortunately, the Shaman did not survive the Corrosion and ended up dying to the Corrosion from... He had already lost some wounds from the spray prior. And then I run the Raider for, sheer S&Gs. I can't win this game, but the only way for my opponent to win is if he kills everything. So I kind of have to just wait for him to kill my models.
Cryx, turn 5. Alright, so Corrosion did kill off a model, which was really good for me. My opponent came back and realized he forgot to activate his Bushwhacker, so I let him activate it, and he decided to try and take the free strike, since Sirens are not well known for their ability to hit anything. But unfortunately, in this case, the Siren did hit. It did Shadowbind his Bushwhacker, and because his Bushwhacker made the tough check, he was knocked down. Machine Wraith came and killed him on the ground. So at this point, my opponent is down to his Fell Caller, either Fell Caller or Northkin on the far side. Like, at this point, this scenario is no longer feasible, since I do not believe he's got 3 models left. But he's going to try and get that last guy to the board edge. And because he's going to try that, I'm going to have to stop him.
So going into my afterthoughts of this game, the scenario it's a fun one. I mean, it's your objective is just to get off the table. It kind of teaches new players the concept of, okay, last game you learned what mechanics are like. This is a game where you learn how to win via a condition other than just tabling each other. So again, another learning game, another opportunity for new players. List to list, I think I was probably at a disadvantage. The anti-tough really just kind of screwed the raiders and their ability to hang out or gum things up. And I played poorly with the whole forgetting about the spray at the bottom and giving him an opportunity to just continually keep spraying over and over again. So that was definitely something that I screwed up on that play. But it's another prologue game we're going to get through. We're going to move on to, I believe, Border Wars is the next one, and then we'll get into the actual nitty-gritty of the campaign.